were put in place for Miami Beach and Fort Lauderdale, putting limits on businesses and on visitors.
And now Miami-Dade County is putting new restrictions on restaurants.
The beaches of Florida have long been a symbol of leisure and beauty, a coast lined with tourists, thriving local businesses, and a lifestyle marked by sunshine and sea. Yet, in the blink of an eye, that tranquility collapsed into silence, secrecy, and speculation when an unfathomable discovery beneath the Atlantic changed everything. A monolithic structure, unlike anything known to human science or history, emerged from the ocean floor. Not raised by tectonic shifts nor exposed by a passing storm, this structure surfaced, or allowed itself to be seen, in a manner too precise and reactive to be dismissed as coincidence. It is geometrically perfect, metallic, and pulses with rhythmic frequencies that have disrupted local wildlife, altered human brainwaves, and sent shockwaves through the scientific and intelligence communities. At first, the reports came from fishermen noticing symmetrical sonar anomalies. Within hours, divers sent to explore the anomaly encountered something extraordinary: an immense reflective pillar embedded in the ocean bed, warm to the touch, and marked with patterns unidentifiable by any known human language or ancient symbology. As soon as this report reached federal authorities, the area was placed under a militarized lockdown. The Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. Navy rapidly sealed off a 50-mile radius, enforcing exclusion zones on land and sea. Helicopters hovered overhead, floodlights lit the night surf, and local businesses were evacuated. The federal response was immediate, clinical, and absolute. What began as a localized marine anomaly swiftly escalated into a planetary concern. The monolith's influence proved disruptive to nearby technology. Compasses spun aimlessly, encrypted communication devices began glitching, and depth-measuring equipment failed when approaching the object. These malfunctions extended to marine animals as well. Fish avoided the monolith entirely. Barnacles and algae refused to grow on it. Dolphins and whales in nearby waters began displaying erratic behaviors, emitting distress calls in frequencies never before recorded. It was as though the monolith exerted a field not only repelling life, but reshaping behavior and biology. Scientific instruments brought in under deep secrecy started returning bizarre data. The structure's surface was so smooth it appeared to have been engineered on a nanoscale, with etchings and designs that shifted over time, almost responding to tidal movements and solar flares. What was more concerning was the suggestion from multiple cross-disciplinary teams that these changes were not decorative but functional, possibly communicative. These were not mere patterns, they were sequences. Some believed them to be language, others proposed they were algorithms. Whatever the case, they were not random. That the object might be communicating was not the most unsettling hypothesis. It was the idea that it was listening. Internal sensors installed on research submarines began detecting rhythmic vibrations that changed when probes emitted sonar or light. This was not passive reflection but apparent mimicry. One expert who had worked in deep-sea bioacoustics for decades likened the behavior to a creature testing its surroundings. Except this was no animal, and what it was testing might not be the ocean, it might be us. Attempts to scan the interior of the structure revealed dense layers of unknown material beyond any known alloy or composite. Core samples taken under immense scrutiny revealed no familiar compounds. Under electron microscopes, the structure contained a fusion of organic and mechanical design, somewhere between artificial intelligence and life form. Heat sources were mapped in spiral patterns. Energy cores pulsed with frequencies that defied known electromagnetism. Whatever this was, it was not built with tools or machines. It seemed to have formed with intention, either long before humanity existed or outside the boundaries of our planet entirely. The silence from official sources only intensified the anxiety. Every briefing used the vaguest of terms: maritime hazard, environmental containment, precautionary lockdown, but nothing could explain the blacked out satellites, the jammed marine tracking apps, or the fact that all digital mapping of the area had been scrubbed clean. Independent researchers who approached were intercepted and warned. Civilian drones were grounded or hacked mid-air. It became apparent that the federal government was not just hiding what had been found, it was preparing for what might come next. Behind the walls of military bases and floating command ships, theories collided with fears. Some believed it to be an extraterrestrial artifact, possibly a beacon, transmitting to unknown receivers across the cosmos. Others saw it as a node in a vast network buried deep within the Earth, an ancient structure dormant until now. Seismologists noted vibrations too regular to be tectonic. Oceanographers found no evidence of recent underwater shifts or eruptions that could have revealed the object, which led to the most disturbing conclusion of all: the monolith revealed itself. itself. This perspective altered every assessment. If the object chose to emerge, then it was aware. If it was aware, it was monitoring. Military strategists were briefed not in terms of object containment, but in terms of behavioral analysis. The idea that it might have memory, that it might have stored data from previous civilizations, was floated in top-secret meetings. The structure was no longer regarded as dormant. It was potentially alive, or at the very least, reactive. Within the exclusion zone, phenomena intensified. Residents reported hearing a low hum at night, seemingly coming from the ground itself. Electrical blackouts plagued nearby towns without explanation. Animals avoided entire sections of forest. Birds flew erratically or refused to migrate. The beaches remained deserted, but the structure's influence spread well beyond the water. In psychological screenings conducted under the guise of medical surveys, locals described vivid dreams, shared imagery, and languages they did not know but somehow understood. Neurologists analyzing brain scans from affected individuals noted abnormal synchronization across both hemispheres, patterns never before observed. These effects disappeared when subjects were moved inland, only to reappear upon return. One military official described the object as a mirror, not for physical appearance, but for consciousness. If it was capable of probing human thought, emotion, or memory, it was not a machine. It was a presence. Religious institutions offered their own interpretations. Kabbalistic scholars pointed out numerical correspondences in the monolith's pulsing frequencies. Sufi mystics noted that its vibrations mimicked chants used in rituals for centuries. Buddhist monks drew parallels between its emissions and the frequency known as OM, the sound of universal creation. Theological think tanks were asked in secret to search ancient scriptures for mention of submerged relics or divine machines. Many complied. Some reported chilling similarities to forgotten scrolls describing gods who slept beneath the sea. And yet, the government refused to confirm or deny. Instead, it moved to classify the discovery not merely as top secret, but as a planetary threat. This triggered the involvement of the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, a body usually concerned with nuclear and biological risks. Their conclusion was both cautious and grave. The object was neither inert nor isolated. There might be others. Using high-resolution satellite imaging and anomalous data from around the globe, researchers began identifying similar blind spots, areas where mapping fails, where instruments go dark, where ancient tales overlap with electromagnetic distortion. Some lie beneath the Pacific, others are rumored in the Himalayas or buried under Antarctic ice. The working theory is chilling. The Florida monolith is not unique. It is part of a distributed network, and that network may be activating. The term activation itself is disputed. Some call it awakening, others call it response. The object may not have been dormant. It may have simply been waiting. A growing number of researchers now suspect that environmental changes, melting ice, solar flux, geomagnetic shifts, triggered the object's reveal. If so, its timing is not random. It is coordinated. That realization has sparked a panic among intelligence analysts. If this is a test, what is the objective? What happens if we fail? The object could be a probe, a judge, a seed. It might be evaluating humanity's development. It might be a switch, or worse, it might be a signal. Quantum computers aboard a retrofitted aircraft carrier began running models to simulate communication sequences. One outcome surfaced repeatedly. The object's emissions behave like quantum memory, not only recording, but evolving. That means it may have already interacted with humanity in ways we cannot comprehend, storing information from previous epochs and civilizations. Some analysts now believe that it did not just watch us, it shaped us. If true, that theory breaks every paradigm. It means we are not the pinnacle of intelligent life, nor the first civilization advanced enough to be noticed. It suggests that history is cyclic, and that contact, however indirect, has occurred before. This might explain legends, myths, unexplained artifacts, and massive architectural feats throughout history. Perhaps the monolith did not appear now because we're ready, but because we've reached a threshold, technologically, socially, or psychologically, that demands evaluation. Whispers of Project Locust, a clandestine initiative within the U.S. intelligence community, began to circulate. This project, allegedly formed under DARPA oversight, focuses on identifying global counterparts to the Florida structure. Several have been pinpointed, but access is restricted. The Florida monolith remains the most active, suggesting either a primary role or a proximity-based trigger. In Florida, sediment around the object began forming spirals, symmetrical and vanishing after moments. These formations are being likened to crop circles, but aquatic and dynamic. Artificial intelligence models analyzing these spirals detected recursive recursive mathematical sequences, patterns that reflect higher dimensional physics. One neuroscientist connected to a live feed entered a trance state and began writing equations that do not exist in current mathematics. Equations hinting at time curvature, localized gravity loops, and multidimensional space compression. This goes beyond technology. It enters metaphysics. The monolith may not be a machine at all, but a bridge between reality layers, a key to understanding dimensions outside of human perception. Some scientists argue that it is not communicating in language, but in resonance, shaping reality by harmonizing with the fundamental vibrations of matter, life, and consciousness. And then comes the darkest theory of all, that the object was not built to guide, but to filter. If it is a test, perhaps not everyone passes. The neurological shifts, the psychological changes, the obsession it instills in those who spend too much time near it, those may not be side effects. They may be part of its function. It could be categorizing minds, scanning for responses, choosing who can understand and who cannot. Containment remains the official strategy, but leaks have begun. Footage of the spirals, redacted seismic data, audio of the monolith's hum, distorted but unmistakably harmonic. Independent analysts have pieced together partial models, and the public's curiosity is growing. Misinformation is being deployed to drown the truth. Volcanic threats, deep-sea mining accidents, routine naval operations, but the truth vibrates beneath it all, undeniable to those who feel it. The structure is not inert, it is part of something larger. It reacts to our presence. It interacts with our minds. It may be rewriting our biology. It may be redefining what it means to be human. Whether it's a signal from another world, an artifact from a previous age, or an intelligence embedded in the Earth itself, its emergence marks a turning point. Even as the monolith rests motionless beneath the waves, its impact continues to ripple through every sector of society: government, science, religion, and individual consciousness. The world above is being reshaped not by something aggressive or overt, but by the quiet, unsettling gravity of the unknown. The silence surrounding the monolith is not born from ignorance, but from an awareness too heavy to carry openly. The object doesn't scream for attention, it simply is, and its very existence forces everyone to either ignore it at their peril or stare into it long enough to feel something staring back. Inside secure Pentagon briefings and subterranean think tanks, researchers no longer ask, "What is it?" That question has been exhausted, unanswerable by all available metrics. The new, more urgent question is, what does it want? This shift in inquiry reveals just how far the conversation has evolved. It is no longer about classification, identification, or origin. It's about intent. The object doesn't need to move or attack or broadcast a message in English to be interpreted as active. Its influence, the neurological patterns, the strange behaviors in wildlife, the alteration of magnetism and ocean currents, is its message. It is, in essence, doing something, and what it's doing is too deliberate to be considered passive. And still, it waits, silent, pulsing, remembering, testing, watching. The beaches remain closed not because of immediate danger, but because what lies below has the power to destabilize everything above. It is not just a monolith, it is a mirror, a monument, and possibly a gate, and the world is no longer the same.